When it comes to flagship luxury sedans, it's pretty hard to beat the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. In fact, arch rival BMW has constantly been chasing the S-Class with their 7 Series, but unfortunately the 7 Series has always kind of lived in the shadow of the S-Class. Well, for 2023, BMW is hoping to change all of that with the fully redesigned 7th generation model. Now available in gas or fully electric variants, this week, as you can see, we are testing out the electric version of the 7 Series. This is known as the BMW i7 xDrive60. Now what that means essentially is this is the gasoline or electric equivalent of the gas-powered M760i with dual electric motors, all-wheel drive, a 101.7 kilowatt-hour battery pack, up to 536 horsepower, and the EPA now says you can go up to 318 miles on a full charge. Now the big story, of course, with the 7 Series, besides the electric and gas powertrains, is the exterior styling and an interior that should shame any rival in this segment with its huge 31-inch theater screen that you'll find in the back seat. So as you can see this week, we are driving the all-electric BMW i7, and the big question I want to answer, if you guys have always had your eye on a flagship luxury vehicle and you wanted to go electric, how does the 2023 BMW i7 stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the exterior styling of this all-new G70 Generation 7 Series, I want to show you guys what's underneath the hood, because this has always been the million-dollar question with an EV, and as you can see, because this car is designed to accommodate a gas and electric powertrain, it sadly does not have a frunk. Now, when you lift up the hood of the i7, you might see a lot of plastic coverings. However, at least they allow you to open up the hood, because that's something that the Mercedes-Benz EQS doesn't even allow you to do as an owner. So again, you just see a bunch of plastic coverings in here. You could also kind of lift up this cover here and see that there's nothing underneath there besides just the front motor, because remember, this car has dual electric motors as standard. But let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain, because this is the only model you can get as an i7. It's known as the xDrive60, which means it has all-wheel drive, and it has the V8 power equivalent, because we have a front electric motor making around 255 horsepower and a rear electric motor making 308. Combined, they make 536 horsepower and 549 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through a single-speed reduction gear transmission. And like I said earlier, we have a 101.7 kilowatt usable battery pack. It's around 105.7 total, but remember, they don't allow you to use the full amount because they're trying to give you a longer life of the battery pack. BMW claims you should do 0 to 60 in around 4.5 seconds. It has a top speed of 149 miles an hour. And this particular model here, it's supposed to have the 21-inch wheels. However, my car has a winter wheel and tire package on it, which has 19s of 308 miles. If you have a 19-inch wheel, BMW says you can get up to 318 miles. The 20-inch wheel drops the range to 296 miles. So again, that's below the 340 that you get with the EQS, but it's still relatively competitive, although a lot of competitors, again, get better range than this car. Because of the heavy battery pack that lines the floor of this vehicle, the i7 weighs about 800 pounds heavier than a regular 760i, which this car, as it sits, weighs in at around 5,900 pounds, which is, again, a very heavy vehicle, but it also is a fairly large car, which I'll talk about the charging when we get to the rear of the charge port door. But closing the hood, you can see the design of this car is super polarizing. In fact, my tester here is the luxury lined version, which means we don't have all the black accents and we have a different front fascia versus the M Sport model, which I showed you in the gas-powered review a couple months ago. This particular one here is also painted in a shade of gray called oxide gray, which kind of looks a little champagne in its color, but you can see the front end of this car, super polarizing, especially with the massive twin kidneys here. You can see there are active grille shutters on this car where this will open and close. There's an eye badge here if you guys go for the electric version. That's really your only indication, along with the fact that the BMW logo is blue accented here. Now, I will also say that if you want this luxury line trim, it's not available on the M60 or the M60i gas-powered version. That only comes as an M Sport. For no cost, you can also get the M Sport, which changes out the front bumper and adds more black accents. You can see the Swarovski crystals that you get for the LED turn signal and LED daytime running lights. They look amazing as the sun hits it. It's glistening in the sun. And then down here you can see the split headlight design with the headlight and LED taillight or LED turn signal combination split up there definitely makes for an interesting look. You can see there are some functional openings there, functional openings here. The M Sport adds a lot more black accents, but overall, this car's design from the front fascia is definitely in your face. I personally think it looks better than the EQS, but I do think a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz S-Class looks better than this vehicle, but this car definitely has presence to it. It looks expensive and it looks almost kind of Rolls-Royce-ish because of how blocky it is. Now looking around the side profile, this is where BMW really made the new 7 Series and i7 a lot longer than its predecessors. Remember, this is now in its 7th generation and it rides on a 126.7-inch long wheelbase. It measures 212 inches long in the overall length. So BMW only offers a long wheelbase model here in the US, and it's about 5 inches longer than an S-Class and the previous generation 7 Series. It's also around 2 inches taller and 2 inches wider versus its predecessor. Now looking at the wheels, I want to point out these wheels look awful, by the way. This car is supposed to come with a 21-inch wheel, but my tester has a 19-inch wheel on a Pirelli P0 Soto Zero winter tire. So this again is not what it's supposed to come with, but again, with these silver finished wheels, it just looks really basic. All i7s come standard with an air suspension, and you also have adaptive dampers. Those winter tires, again, that's a 245/50 R19 with a fatter, or with a square size, I'm sorry, 245/50 in the rear. This car is supposed to have fatter tires in the back as well. Now looking at the side mirror, you can see the luxury line includes all the chrome trim along the door handles, along the window trim. You also have this integrated turn signal mirror, and then my tester also has the panoramic glass roof, which you can see is actually standard. It doesn't actually open, but it does have a power retractable shade. You can see the rear doors are extremely long because of how big this vehicle. I do love how the oxide gray looks in the sun. It has a nice glistening effect to it. And then look at the rear. This is where the new 7 Series and i7 has a relatively plain look at the back, especially if you don't go for the M Sport package, which includes like a spoiler on the back, black accents. You can see the taillights have an interesting look when you have the turn signal on. They kind of fade in and out slowly as opposed to doing a sequential LED. I kind of prefer the sequential LED, but you can see this car just almost looks like a Buick. It's very nondescript at the back here. So I highly recommend going for the M Sport package. You can see, again, you're not going to be able to tell this is electric unless you look at the i7 badge, the blue accented logo, the xDrive60 badge over there, and then you can see down there, there's no visible exhaust tips because remember, hello, this is all electric. Now, opening up the trunk, this is where the EQS does have an advantage compared to this car. That car is a hatchback, which means you get up to 50-ish plus cubic feet of space, 16 with the seats up. This car is a conventional sedan, so you only get up to 11.5 cubic feet of total storage space back here. The seats also do not fold down in a 60/40 manner, although I do believe they offer a trunk pass-through, but my tester has the executive package, so it doesn't have that. Underneath here, there is some underfloor storage. That's where the mobile charger is, which is nice. This car does come with that, at least from the factory. You don't have to pay extra for that, but overall, it's definitely not going to be as spacious as the EQS. Closing this up, I want to show you guys the charge port door that is located over here on the rear passenger side. I'm surprised this door is not electric. There's also like one LED light in there. It just doesn't look quite as upscale as I expected from a BMW. You can see it's got AC and DC fast charging. That's going to be standard. This car runs on the 400-volt architecture, which means it can accept up to 195 kilowatts of max DC fast charging. It'll basically go from 10 to 80% in about 30-ish or so minutes. It has an 11.5 kilowatt onboard charger. So when you have it on a level 2, like the one at my home from ChargePoint on a 48 amp, this will charge from roughly empty to zero in about 12 hours, because remember, it's got a relatively large battery pack. So overall, the charging is average, but just keep in mind that some competitors are going to be running on the 800-volt architecture, and they are much quicker to charge. So now let's finally get to the best part of the new BMW i7, and that's the interior, which will really blow your mind with some of the luxury and tech features that it comes with. Now, first of all, here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see it is BMW's newest fob. It also includes remote start on the fob. It feels heavy and very, very nice in your hand. You can also lock, unlock, open up the trunk and whatnot. And because it's got the BMW smart key, as I approach the vehicle or walk away, it will lock and unlock the car. So as I approach, you can see the car will unlock. And if I push this button here, you can see those automatic doors. As I push that and back away, actually open up for you, which is a really great luxury touch that they took from Rolls-Royce. Now you can see the interior of my Tester is an optional interior. This is the full merino leather with the light cashmere wool blend inserts. It's a light gray with the smoke white. It does look very impressive. I love how a lot of these luxury brands are going to like a luxury cloth material, but I personally would skip this because I'd be worried about the longevity. These seats are also heated and ventilated. They're massaging. They adjust in like 24 different ways. So you can see I love the door panels with their glass controls for the door or for the seat controls. You've got full leather stitching with more glass controls along with the wool leather even on the lower portion of the door handle with piano black plastic. My Tester also has the 39 speaker Bowers & Wilkins premium audio system for $5,000. Again, sounds incredible. One of the best sounding stereos I've ever tested in the segment. But let's go ahead and get inside the interior of this model because I get in, you can either close the door by manually, or you can also push that button, or you can also just put your foot on the brake, which that's all part of a setting. But once you do that, you can see the door shuts with a nice solid sounding thunk, which is wonderful. It really just adds to the whole quality and impression of quality with this vehicle. And then when you want to start it up, the start stop button is down here. So you push that button, the car comes to life, and it has a lot of great sounds to it because this vehicle's iconic sounds were created by Hans Zimmer, which we'll talk about that later on during the driving scene. But you can see this interior just looks super impressive when you're first when you first get in. You can see it's got this kind of glass bar, an interaction bar is what BMW calls it, with LED lighting behind it, along with the glass controls that you'll find on the doors and the beautiful wood. This is kind of like a light silver birch style matte finish wood, where you can see it actually has kind of like a different stain color to it on the upper and the lower portion there. It all looks beautiful with the light color interior, along with their, of course, massive xDrive60 infotainment system. It basically combines a 12.3-inch display here along with a 14.5-inch display here in the center, which includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I also noticed how really sturdy this feels. So in the Mercedes-Benz EQS, if you start poking around on some of the screens and panels and whatnot, you'll hear some creaking. In the BMW, there are some areas where it will creak, obviously, but what really impresses me is just how sturdy that screen feels. You don't get that feeling in the Mercedes-Benz EQS. Now, in terms of the rest of the dash, you can see it's got full stitching along the upper portion of the dash. There's lights inside. There's speaker grills. In fact, this car at night is just absolutely beautiful with the interior lighting. I'm just shocked at how gorgeous it looks. It's not over the top and obnoxious the way an S-Class is or an EQS, so I think BMW did a great job with the lighting from this interaction bar and how it changes out whenever you change out the drive modes. But looking at the steering wheel, you can see with the luxury package, you get a 2-spoke wheel with a flat bottom design. You go for the M Sport, this will become a 3-spoke wheel. I like how the BMW airbag cover is stitched with real leather. It's got the blue accented logo. No paddles on the wheel, but you do have controls, of course, for your adaptive cruise control, your audio controls. The horn sounds good. It sounds appropriate, and it doesn't sound super annoying when you need to use the horn. The steering wheel itself, as you guys notice, it's probably a power tilt and telescoping wheel. And then you can see this car also has 2-person memory seats along with these lit up controls over here. The windows are, as I expected, one touch for all 4 windows, which is nice. The windows themselves, you can see, are like double paned, and the interior itself is just really quiet when you get back here, which is, of course, what you'd expect from a vehicle in this price category. Now, you can see my Tester also has a heads-up display, which is standard, and visibility in here is also not bad. I think BMW did a really great job with the sight lines in this vehicle. Now, coming back over here to the controls. Now, I've shown you guys a video of iDrive7 before, so I'm not going to go too much into detail with this. The main thing about iDrive7 is there's a lot of stuff in here where everything's kind of buried into a menu. Now, this is what the home screen looks like. You can see this is somewhat customizable. There's what the factory GPS looks like. It looks okay. Most people will probably end up using their phone, but actually it's very quick and snappy. And it's very much, you know, what you expect out of a luxury brand. This is what the CarPlay looks like. You can see it takes up the entire screen, which is nice. It's a 14.5-inch display. It's wireless. This car also has wireless over-the-air updates. So this is a really great system. However, what I don't like is how the climate menu is now in this screen. So when I push that, if I'm looking for something quick in here, I have to literally scroll and take my eyes off the road, which is kind of annoying. You can get around that by using the voice commands, which is nice. But again, there's no hard buttons for the heated seats or the heated steering wheel, which I would prefer to have something like that. If you push that, you can see there are so many different widgets to choose from. You can go and customize things. This is just annoying and overwhelming at times. Now, one thing that kind of annoys me as well is, like, let's say, for example, I want to open and close those vents, or I'm sorry, not the vents, the shade back there, because right now it's open. I have to go into a menu here and go to doors and windows, and that's where it comes up. Now, there is a shortcut button on the door here that I found earlier. You push that, that'll bring that up. But again, it's a two-step process where I have to go into the screen here. And for example, I can close all the blinds. Now, there's with all the blinds closed. Going back there, you can see it really helps shade the rear passengers. But once that's up, you can see I can't see a damn thing from the rear view mirror because this car doesn't have a digital camera rear view mirror. I think that's unacceptable, especially when you have the theater screen down. It's something that BMW should have thought of, but a lot of the German brands don't actually have that feature on their vehicles. Now you can see here, this is where the doors and window setting comes to play. It also has all those automatic doors. And one thing I want to show you guys, hello BMW, open all the doors.
Should I open all doors?
Yes.
Got it.
So I have to admit, that is pretty cool because all 4 of the doors will open in sequence. I can also tell it to close the doors. Hello, BMW. Hello, BMW. Close all the doors.
Should I close all doors?
Yes.
Got it.
So I'm not entirely sure when you would actually use that feature, but it's a pretty cool gimmick that will impress basically anybody, because I don't think any other vehicle offers that level of voice commands and just, you know, cool factor when you have the ability to open and close all the doors like that. So overall, this screen here is nice. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you can also see it gives you a backup camera, which, let me turn the car on first. Every time you open the door, it shuts off the car. It gives you a full 360 backup camera. It has their startup backup assistance as well. You can kind of change your individual views and whatnot. You can also do a 360 perimeter scan, I believe, panoramic view. So there's all these different parking views, and you can also use the backup assistant, which is pretty cool. There's the 360 scan, which basically I have to use this camera over here on this function. Or I should be able to swipe around this, but for some reason it's not letting me. But you can see there, it all looks very nice. Those are the wheels that the car is supposed to come with, which is why my tester looks really weak with those basic looking 19-inch wheels. But again, wheels are a pretty simple change, but they also show how important they are. A couple things about the interaction bar. When I put on the hazards here, you can see the whole thing blinks red, which is pretty cool, just to remind everybody in the car that you have the hazards on. Your vent controls are down here. They're actually controlled by this little manual knob down here, and these are actually, this little slit here is actually the vent. It's the same thing here on the driver's side, and on the passenger side, your headlight controls are here. Push that button, that also opens up the doors. You can also open and close the vent via here. You'll see a green LED light there, which again, all looks very impressive, but it is gonna require a little bit of a learning curve. Now down here, you can see wireless phone charging pad, which my phone works in it, even in the case. I struggle on so many new cars where my phone's plugged in, but it doesn't actually work. Unless I take it out of the case. You can see, open this up, you have 2 cup holders here, which surprisingly the cup holders aren't heated or cooled. BMW used to do that on some of their other models. You can see beautiful wood, beautiful glass controls here for the iDrive 8 controller. There's also a button here to raise and lower the air suspension. Your drive mode selector is here. You can see there's a personal, sport, efficient, expressive, theater, and digital art mode. You can see digital art basically opens up the rear sunshade, and it gives you like a purple hue with all this beautiful graphics on the screen, which is really nice. Gear selectors over here, push it down to go into drive. There's also a B mode, that's for the regenerative braking. This car does offer a 1-pedal drive if you have it in B, and as well as an adaptive 1-pedal drive feature. There's also push it forward to go into reverse. There's also an auto hold feature, of course. There's a volume knob here, which is also in that beautiful glass control. And then if you open this up, you can see massive center, or not massive, decently sized center console storage area with 2 USB-C charging ports. It's also nice and padded over here. I also like how this is a split opening. The seats are also very comfortable and supportive. Again, I would probably skip the light cashmere because I would worry about the longevity of this. But overall, the front seat area is a wonderful place to spend time. A lot of space, a lot of technology, a lot of luxury, and it really will wow and impress you. But my favorite feature is definitely going to be that interaction bar, which looks fantastic when you have this vehicle lit up at night. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the best feature of the new BMW i7, and that is the back seat, because my tester has like the rear seat executive package, the rear seat theater package, and because it's now about 5 inches longer overall, it offers 42.8 inches of legroom back here, which 42.8 is just a huge amount. You can see once you open up the door, you can see the back seat just looks super accommodating. There's actually an ottoman and a footrest on this side because that seat will actually move forward if you'd like. As I get in back here, you can see the space is just plentiful. I also love how the carpet has that luscious like lamb's wool feel. Very high quality plush carpeting, just like in a Rolls Royce. Now, if you want to shut the door, I can either close it manually, which obviously as I get in and shut the door, it has a solid thunk just like in the front. Or if you want, I can also push this A button right there, and that'll also automatically close the door for me, which is again all very important when you guys are being driven around in your electric 7 Series. Now I want to start the vehicle up there so it stops beeping. Okay, now the car is on, which it might still beep a couple more times, but let's take a look at the back seat, because this is why you spent like an extra $10,000 in the rear of this car, because as you can see above me in the roof, that is a screen. That screen is part of an $8,000 package that basically turns the rear seat into your own private movie theater. You can see I have the shades up right now, but if I wanted to, I can also open up all the shades, which if I open up the shades here, you can really see there's a huge difference in how much light comes in through this interior. But for most of you who want to have your privacy back here, this is kind of where this car offers a ton of options back here to give you that private feeling that you like. So let's go over here, go to blinds. We'll do close all the blinds. That'll close that, and then the windows are down right now, which is why the windows didn't close, but surprised I can't actually close the windows from back here, which is interesting, but close all, there we go. So you can see once you have everything closed, it really just kind of gives you like your own private theater back here, along with this beautifully soft wool pillow or cashmere pillow, which when I sit back here, it's just got so much comfort. It's so plush. There's like 42.8 inches of legroom. This seat is almost all the way back. This is where I'd have it to drive, so you can see just a ton of room. And then you can see over here in the center console area, when you fold this up, there is still a middle seat here, so this car will seat up to 5 people. There's also a large hump here because remember, this is built off of a rear drive architecture, and it also is accommodating an internal combustion gasoline vehicle, which is why it's not a flat floor. But once you fold this down, you can see padded area here for the armrest, nice size center console with 2 USB charging ports in there. And then if I push that, that opens it up to reveal 2 cup holders, and that right there is a wireless phone charging pad, which is nice. This center console area looks a little bit basic because BMW put the screens over here. There are 2 5-inch displays in each of the doors, and this allows you to customize and control everything. Now, the display here, go ahead and push that, and then we'll fold it down. You can see, just push the fold down button. This screen will electrically fold down, which is really cool. You can also adjust the angle and move it closer or further away from you if you'd like. This is an 8K resolution screen, and it's also in a very widescreen format. You can also stream all your things here like you'd expect, like movies from Amazon Prime Video. You can also do Netflix, YouTube. All of this, again, is all available if you log in through your BMW app and log in through your accounts and whatnot. This is also a touchscreen, so if you need to use this as a touchscreen, you can also, it also functions as a touchscreen. You can see right there. It doesn't always work wonderfully, but you can also change the orientation of this if you'd like. You can see there's the 32.9, which really kind of makes the screen, I guess if you're watching a movie, it would zoom in a little too much. Most of you will probably have it on the 21.9 view, or the 16.9 is what it kind of defaults to. I'm having trouble with this working. There we go. It doesn't always work perfectly, but you can see on the 16.9, this is where it doesn't cut everything out, but you can also do kind of like a split view, but you can't watch 2 separate movies on the same screen. That's something BMW doesn't allow you to do. One thing I also want to show you guys as well is over here on this side, there's a lounge function, which basically allows me to kind of hit this button here and push that. You can see this will push the front seat forward. This can only be done, of course, if there's nobody here. There's a sensor in the back or in that seat that's going to sense if there's somebody there. It does take a little bit of time, but you can see if you wait long enough, you can see the screen over there actually tells the driver that that's going to start to block the view from the passenger side mirror. You can see the seat electrically pushes itself forward, and my seat is now starting to also recline. So there's an ottoman here that folds out. That's going to basically also give me a footrest here, and there's also a footrest on the seat that'll come out. The seat starts to push downward. It also will recline. This seat back will actually recline a total of like 41.5 degrees, and then the headrest you can see comes up. This basically feels like I'm sitting in a first-class seat on an airplane. So, I mean, this is what I expect from any manufacturer when it comes to a flagship vehicle. You can see it's still going. You can see the screen right there is telling us where we're at. Okay, it's finally done. So for somebody my height, 5'7", I can literally lounge back here, and my feet doesn't even reach the very top of that. It barely just hits that. For those of you who are over 6 feet, you might be all the way down here, which is necessary. But for somebody my height, you can see my feet isn't even long enough to reach that footrest over there. But once I'm back here and I have this reclined, I mean, just look at the screen back here. Look at how soft and comfortable it is. These seats are also heated, cooled, and they also offer a massage function. So again, that wonderful massage from the front, I can also get it from the rear over here, which allows me to change the intensity and the different types of massages. You can see there's so many different ones. My favorite is the whole body activation. Go back over here to the menu display. You can see you can adjust your rear seat climate. There's 4-zone climate control. You can also change the lighting in here. You can also change the reading lighting back here. You can see it's kind of like an airplane where you can adjust the lighting. You can also change the color temperature. You can also change the ambient lighting back here, which again, all looks very impressive. This is a really cool interface back here. And it really is kind of a game changer. I mean, for $8,000, this screen here with all the massaging seats and whatnot, it is actually kind of a deal considering how expensive some of this car's competitors are. Now, in terms of vents, you can see there's rear seat vents on the pillar there, on the center console over there. You have basically leather along the grab handles here. You have Alcantara kind of all over the interior. There's even leather and plush carpeting everywhere. You can see it's even carried over here along the door panels. So again, you are getting the full lap of luxury experience in this car, and it really just shows you how BMW is taking the mission of this being a flagship luxury sedan very seriously, and it puts the EQS to shame because the EQS's back seat is small on the luxury sedan scale, and it doesn't even offer the kind of technology and just like ambience that you get in the new 7 Series / i7. So a fully redesigned version of the BMW 7 Series doesn't come around too often, and for this generation, this 7th generation, BMW went so far as to introduce a new model, the i7, because it's now part of their electric vehicle family. And as you guys know, with the 7 numerical number, it means it's the flagship of the BMW lineup. So now that we're driving this i7 for a full week, we can put it through our usual battery of tests versus when I first had a chance to drive this vehicle, I had it for about an hour. And I've also had the chance to drive it in colder winter conditions here in PA, so we've been able to test out the range, which I'll talk about later on. But we're starting off the drive here with the 99% charge. It was showing at 270 miles on a full charge. I have the vehicle in sport mode. Let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise in this car. It's in sport. No brake boost because this isn't a sport version, but we can brake torque it. Ooh! Because it's all-wheel drive, it just launches really well. All right, 0 to 60 in 4.25 seconds, which is great because BMW claims 4.5 seconds for this setup. And this is the model that essentially has the same power figures as the V8 powered 7 Series, the M760i or something like that. So compared to the V8, which I briefly got a chance to drive, the electric version is slightly slower. I suspect the V8 will probably do that same sprint in around 3.8, 3.9 seconds, but still, 4.25 is nothing to sneeze at. And it's going to be fast enough for most people. It is a tad slower than the EQS 580 that I last tested. I think that will break into the 3.9 second range. So, I mean, by the numbers, it doesn't look good on paper, but for most people, this is going to be plenty fast. We'll try it again here. I love the sounds as well that it makes. This is the the iconic sounds that BMW went to Hans Zimmer for to create these noises, and it certainly has kind of like a spaceshipy fighter jet Star Trek theme. I got 4.4 seconds there with it more going slightly uphill. So again, 4.2 seconds, 4.25 is not bad. Keep in mind, BMW is going to eventually introduce an M70 version, which should have well over 600 horsepower, which should be able to do it in the closer to 3.5 second range. So that's the model that enthusiasts will probably be waiting for, but this has plenty of power for most people. But I do want to show you guys one thing. I'm going to change the drive mode. Hello, BMW. Hello, BMW. Change drive mode to expressive.
With pleasure, I will activate the expressive mode.
Now, obviously, I can just push the My mode down here and it'll change it as well, but I want you guys to listen to this mode. This is probably the most theatrical sound that I've ever heard from an electric vehicle. Literally, it sounds like a scary movie. And then it always makes that kind of noise every time I'm just driving along. Every time I put my foot down, you can really hear the theatrics it's producing. It's just comical, but also it would probably get on my nerves, which is why I don't like driving it in expressive mode all the time. You can see the screens here do this really great visualization, along with the lighting from the iconic light bar. The interaction bar here really shows off some interesting design and just some cinematics with this car. But let's see, I'll show you guys again one more time the noise it makes. Listen to this. That is pretty funny. That adds to the whole visual drama of this car. And that's the thing about EVs, is they don't have a lot of visceral feel to them. But BMW is one of the few brands that does that. And I think out of all the manufacturers with their fake sounds, the BMW does it the best. So I do like that. But again, you can take it out of this mode here. I can go to an efficient mode, and that makes it go incredibly quiet, really quiet. And then there's also like a personal mode. This car does have adaptive dampers with air suspension, and in sport mode, it does kind of lower itself to make it a little bit more aerodynamic and a little bit sportier to drive. But we'll just drive the rest of this in efficient mode because I want to see what it's like as a luxury sedan. And this is where the relaxed driving feel of this car is just everly apparent. It is one of the quietest and smoothest vehicles I've driven. In fact, it feels really solid. It has no creaks and rattles. That's one thing I experienced in the EQS, this car's main rival, is it had some creaks and rattles from the interior, which really pissed me off considering how expensive that vehicle is. Not so with the BMW. It rides extremely well. It's so quiet. I took this thing on a 150-mile road trip to test out the range, and I got out of that trip for a 2-hour drive feeling refreshed. I'm getting a massage. The heated and cooled seats work extremely well. The light cashmere wool blend of these seats are comfortable, but I think I'd probably skip this. I prefer the full merino leather that you can also get, just because of this kind of cashmere wool cloth blend. I worry about it showing stains over the years. But visibility is also really well. You can see out of the car very nicely. However, I will say that with the theater screen here, the one thing that BMW and a lot of the other German brands are missing is a digital camera review mirror. When you have the sunshade closed or when you have the screen down, you cannot see out of the back at all. It's really frustrating, the fact that they don't offer a digital camera review mirror for those two features. It's kind of a necessity. The driver assistance tech in this car also works really well. This car has the Highway Driving Assist Plus system, which allows for full hands-off driving on interstates where the car has a camera that watches my face. It works just as well as Cadillac Super Cruise. It'll execute lane changes for you. It'll keep you centered in the lane with your hands off. I drove for basically 45 minutes without the system asking me to put my hands back on the wheel. There are times where it doesn't know the roads and it will ask you to put your hands back on the wheel, or if it notices I'm not paying attention to the road, it'll yell at me to say, driver distracted, please put your eyes back on the road. So that's kind of, again, a very German of them because it yells at me to do that. But in terms of the range, let's talk about that really quick, because it has been kind of a mixed bag here for the temperature, and there were days where it was in the 50s, like today it was 55 degrees at one point. Today it's only 40 degrees, and the trip computer is showing a maximum range of around 270 miles. This car is rated at 308 with the 21-inch wheels, but we do have a 19-inch wheel on this car because it has some winter tires on it. So it should affect the range in a positive way. And in my week's worth of testing, I've been averaging around 270-ish miles on a full charge. I expected it to do better than that, but it is, again, cold outside, and that's going to affect the range. That's how EVs tend to work, is they get less range in the cold. It's still not bad. This car's rated at 308, but the Mercedes EQS does get better range because it has a bigger battery pack, and it is more efficient because of that jelly bean shape of slipperiness with the aerodynamics. This car has a 0.24 coefficient of drag versus 0.20 in the EQS. That makes a difference along with the larger battery pack. So if you want the longer range, there are longer range vehicles like the Tesla Model S, the Mercedes EQS the Lucid Air, which I haven't had a chance to drive the latest S or the Lucid Air. So kind of keep that in mind if you guys are looking for the longest range. But, you know, this is not bad, but, you know, I am surprised BMW didn't want to do better in that regard. They have always been more of a performance brand. And in terms of efficiency, this is squarely right in average, slightly below average in terms of range. But overall, I like the i7. I probably wouldn't get it in this spec here because it looks like an old man car on the outside, especially with these 19-inch wheels. The M Sport model is a no-cost option if you guys want the Sport package. I highly would recommend that. It's got plenty of power for most people. I'll be excited to drive the M70 version at some point. It's got great visibility, great comfort, great technology, especially the back seat. I mean, the back seat is a game changer with this car. But overall, if you're comparing the 7 Series and the i7, obviously there's a reason to choose both. But the i7, if you guys drive this first and then get into the gas model, is going to make you realize just how archaic an internal combustion engine can feel, because this car is just so smooth and quiet and efficient and just fast. It really will change your perception of driving an EV, especially out in the real world, especially when you combine it with this kind of luxury and this kind of technology. So after spending a full week with the flagship of BMW's electric family, the i7, I have to say this car left me really impressed. Obviously, in terms of the styling, that's going to be a subjective element. Personally, for me, I would go with the M Sport package because with the right set of wheels, with the right color, this car actually looks pretty impressive. It looks really aggressive, it looks very expensive, and it definitely has a better look on the outside versus the Mercedes-Benz EQS. In terms of the driving of this car, it definitely doesn't feel sporty the way a BMW does. In fact, they really targeted comfort with this model, although I haven't had a chance to drive an M Sport version of the i7, so I'll have to wait until I can get my hands on that. In terms of as a luxury sedan, this excels in every way. It has a really amazing ride quality. It has one of the quietest interiors I've ever experienced. It's got a gigantic back seat with comfortable front seats, a great massage feature. It's got an infotainment system that I like. I'm just not sure I'm in love with it. There are certain elements about that iDrive8, I'm sorry, that for me are a little bit too convoluted and complex to use on an everyday basis. And the voice commands, while they work fine, there are times where I noticed that it was finicky. What really is the showstopper, however, is the back seat. If you guys are sitting in that rear passenger side area where you have it in the lounge mode and you have that screen down, it is just kind of over the top luxury, and it's not what I expected from BMW at all. So again, that really, for me, puts this interior over the edge in terms of the S-Class and the EQS. In terms of the driving range, in this colder climate area or during this part of the year, I was getting around 270-ish miles on a full charge, which I think is perfectly acceptable. But I suspect for those of you who are coming at or looking at a Lucid Air or a Tesla Model S or the Mercedes-Benz EQS, those are going to have roughly about 50 to another 100 miles of additional range. Although keep in mind, I haven't had a chance to test out the latest Model S or the Lucid Air. And then finally, when we come to the pricing of this vehicle, this is where things get interesting with the i7 and the 7 Series, the gas equivalent, because this car starts at $119,300. It is about $18,000 more expensive versus an EQS. Now keep in mind, BMW does not offer a single motor rear-wheel drive version of this car like Mercedes does on the EQS. So if you compare it to the equivalent of the Mercedes, which is the 580 4MATIC, this is actually around $6,000 cheaper versus the Mercedes. Compared to the M760i, this car is about $2,600 more expensive, which honestly is kind of a no-brainer. If you guys want to buy a luxury sedan, you want the quietest and smoothest and most refined, and you still want all that power, you have to go electric, and BMW doesn't charge that much to go electric, which is pretty impressive. Unfortunately, because this car is not built in the US and it's also too expensive, it does not qualify for the $7,500 federal tax credit, obviously. Now, my tester here has a lot of options on it. In fact, it has a grand total of $151,995. That's the as-tested price because of the rear seat executive package, that rear theater screen, the extra for this color, the upgraded light cashmere interior with the massaging seats. I mean, there's a ton of options on this car, which makes it pretty expensive. Unfortunately, on the outside, it doesn't look like $152,000 because of this particular spec. However, when you get inside, there are some elements of this car that almost reminds me that I'm sitting in a Rolls Royce. So that's something where BMW nailed. So my suggestion is if you want this car, get the right options on it, get the bigger wheels and tires, because it really makes a huge difference when you're looking at the exterior styling. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full full overview on the brand new 2023 BMW i7 and this xDrive60. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.